And we're live. So I've been trying to get you on for some time now. It's been
Sorry about that.
well, it's we live in different time zones, and I've been trying to get other people on that don't come on my channel usually. So I've been trying to reach out to other people just to get some different perspectives and just have think in different ways that I usually, because I usually have like a few people on that are on my streams that usually have the perspectives I am familiar with. But for those who aren't familiar with you, do you want to say what you talk about on YouTube and just generally?
Oh Jesus. Well, I'm completely chaotic and totally inconsistent, especially lately. It's actually, it's funny. It's accurate to call it chaotic because that's kind of how my life has been. I would say the past couple of years. So it's very reflective. I started my channel trying to focus on gaming, but as I tend to, I got sucked into politics. So now I'm trying to separate that into the different channels that I've mentioned on my most recent video. So like one rethink that is going to be more the political stuff. And right now, what I'm actually thinking of doing is a video series on the monk debate with
Okay.
Peterson, Dyson, and all them, because there's a lot there.
Yeah, I actually thought about like maybe doing like one of the first segment and then the second segment, like chopping it up and just talking about it. But it would be a lot of work, and right now I'm
Yeah.
there's a lot of work going on. My last exam is a little bit over a week, so it might be challenging because uh, doing these kind of types of videos, like it's not just chopping them up, but also like thinking out arguments and talking points when you do them.
Yeah,
And
yeah, no, it's going to take me some time. That's why I expect to do a series of videos because I want to dive into it deep. But each little interaction has so many layers to dissect. So
yeah,
I want to try to
that
do it
is
right.
yeah. So something you actually said when you want to do new videos, which I haven't actually seen a lot of people and their style is taking one video on one side and one video from the other side and putting them up to each other and talking about each of the each of the sides and
Mhm.
discussing them. That's actually a really interesting take on videos. Something I really don't see that much. Either usually it's response to one video, or it's just someone talking all the time, with maybe some B-roll doing like rolling while you're talking. So that's your usual style for YouTube, not doing separate videos, having different talking points or arguments. So I
Yeah,
thought
and
that was
I may be taking like an uphill battle approach to that. I mean, it might not work. One of the things I've thought about with social media and that I've been paying attention to is how people interact and respond and like all of the echo chambers that I've talked about. It seems to be kind of natural because if you're going on websites, they're looking to keep you as long as possible, and the things that are going to keep you are the things that you enjoy. So the websites are naturally going to try to cater things to you that will agree with you. So by me taking both sides, I'm not really necessarily going to agree with anybody, and that might work against me for all I know.
yeah. No, I've kind of migrated to Minds, and there are also sorts of people
Mm.
there, and something very interesting on that side is all the boosts. It's basically it's basically all sorts of content. You basically get you can get paid doing anything on that site. So when you get
Didn't know
5,000
that.
points, when you get 5,000 points, you can basically do whatever post you want to and make it visible for the entire site extra, like everyone can see it on this boost feed. And there are all sorts of things that are get boosted there, and it's quite the opposite of a echo chamber, because there's stuff that you don't really want to see. You would actually have to go individually and block each one of them, but in the end, there wouldn't be much to see on that feed, and you would
Yeah, it
literally
would kind
do
of
it
defeat the purpose,
manually.
something like
Yeah, so that's actually a very interesting way to design the site, and the way you also build up. I mean, you can get these 5,000 points, or 5 tokens as they're called, and just put it in into they have like this Bitcoin kind of thing, and just earn the money that way. Or you could use it to expand your profile and become more visible. So that you could actually get paid. You can technically just get paid for posting, which is really interesting.
that. That is interesting. I haven't actually looked into mine, to be honest. But it's interesting.
Yeah, so and that's why just generally I've been moving my content. The only reason I'm using YouTube is for the streaming. They haven't gotten streaming down yet. And they have a limit on 30 minutes on video. So that's why when
Hmm.
I link to my podcast to YouTube, but it's kind of tricky, and I just want to be more independent of YouTube, because it's such a pain for when people can't see your content, and just some stuff just all of the sudden go viral on my channel for no apparent reason. Like there are some videos I had hundreds of thousands of views, and I don't know what the hell, that happened. And then I put more effort into other videos, and they don't seem to get any traction. So with this side, you can actually control your content in a very good way. So you can put a lot of effort into a video, and just put more visibility to that video, and you get rewarded for the likes and
Hmm.
all of that. So we can kind of talk about YouTube, because uh,
Jeez, there's a lot to talk about there.
yeah, I mean they're dabbling with the subscription feed there, which is really dangerous.
Well,
What?
I think they're misbranded at this point. You know, like YouTube first started, it was YouTube broadcast yourself. The idea was to take it back from big, powerful broadcasters and put it in the hands of everybody individually. And that's not what they're doing at all anymore. You know, they want the guys that are going to get views. They obviously are supporting massive networks now. And I mean, like even Logan Paul that was showing up in everybody's feed who blocked the guy. So like it's really not about your individual ability to put out content anymore, as far as I can tell. It's they're really treating their site, it seems, as a network. So
Yeah, because it used to be just like a few years ago, the content creators were paid very well, and uh, if you
that's
made
easier.
consistent and if you made consistent content, you would grow an audience through the algorithm. And like 2 years ago or something, they just completely changed all of it, and basically just makes it harder for everyone. The two apocalypse made it very hard, and you also have that now they're hiring like these big known names in the YouTube Red, like the recent ones that were announced. They had The Rock and like comedians and well known people, instead of actually growing talent on the platform, which is very
Well,
frustrating.
yeah, that's the funny thing is they took what worked and made the website in the first place, threw it out the window, went back to the mainstream media, their entire process and their entire way of putting out content, and competed with the very people that are making it hard for the website to do well in the first place. Like, it's funny to me that the adpocalypse happened as a result of mainstream media outlets doing things to besmirch the reputation of YouTube, and YouTube responded to it by acting more like the networks.
Yeah.
So they're totally throwing out their entire advantage and saying we're just going to play the game the way everybody else plays it. And I don't understand that thinking at all, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of done some courses on marketing, and you're not differentiating yourself. You're not doing anything unique if you're just uh, basically offering what everyone else is on TV.
Exactly.
Uh,
Unique value proposition. They're throwing it out the window entirely.
yeah, and like YouTube, as you said, should be for like the everyday person, what's it called, the John Smith of of the world, and just be able to talk about things, interact with other people on the internet, and that's kind of I mean, it could even be used for therapy, just getting things out. I mean, you did a video about this recently. See, smooth
Kind of, yeah.
transition.
Yeah, we
um,
roll into that. Yeah, that was I think I did that on the default channel that they give you, right? The my actual username channel, not Mythril Shield.
yeah,
But yeah, so I guess a lot of people seeing this probably aren't going to know anything about me. That was a vlog. I pretty much poured my heart out and did like a confessional that you would normally do with a priest on the other side of a screen. But it was just something that was, let's see, I would say 17 years in the making. I
yeah.
admitted
You said,
probably one of my biggest life's failures and shames on social media.
yeah, you said like your friends in general didn't know what was going on with you, and I think that like YouTube could be very good, like just not just to sharing that, but also dealing with that kind of stuff, just life issues, and be talk to people. I think that should be the core of things. And I think when people get to talk, like the video you did,
Hmm.
I can link it afterwards if people really want to check it out, because I would say it's a really good video where you're completely honest. I don't really know you that well. I've followed your
Hmm.
channel, and since you did the tapas and champagne, I pretty much watched all of your videos, and
Yeah.
followed you since then. And even though I'm not, I'm just one of not that many that follow you. I think your content is very interesting. That's why I have you on.
So Top Hats was a funny situation, and I'll explain that in a second. But the video I did, the therapy for me, to an extent, at least the intention, was to take something that I've held in for so long and make it impossible to continue doing so. So it really wasn't important that a lot of people saw it or that I got a lot of positive feedback. To me, it was just like I've struggled with it for so long. And to give you an idea, like when I said I never even told my friends, I can probably point to two people that I really talked to heavily before and after going to boot camp that even knew that I went. I think a lot of people didn't even know, or if they did, it was just very cursory information. And I came back and there were no questions beyond that. So to go in depth and detail with everything, even those two people had no idea what I experienced. Nobody has known. I've talked to very select few people, and usually it's like, yeah, I was in boot camp and I didn't make it.
Yeah, it's
And
like a
yeah,
kind of the same for me. I was an entire year way up north. I live in Norway, so you can imagine it's quite cold. And
hmm,
you like when I talk to people, I like I just do surface level stuff. I never go into detail what I actually did. So it kind of like hit me, because I've been in the military, and I kind of understood your journey through it. And that's why
interesting.
I found it interesting when you did such a video that it kind of impacted you afterwards. And I kind of thought about it myself, and just it was yeah, it was in August. It's 10 years since I I came out and just I did a little bit of self-reflection and like the consequences that came afterwards. Even though I never really saw like the heavy, I was never internationally like in combat or anything like that. Just looked at what my life became afterwards. So that was also something for me to look more introspectively after my time in the military and just evaluating my life.
Yeah, it can have that effect, and there's nothing else quite like it. And just a detail that I didn't put in that video, so exclusive to the Andrew Dahl channel. To give some context to at least my experience, and you talk about international warfare, right? When I originally signed up, it was peacetime, so I didn't expect to immediately see combat. While I was in delayed entry program, 9/11 happened. And then I shipped out 2 months later, and it was actually while I was in boot camp, we got the news that the first Marines were actually landing in Afghanistan. And that information actually hadn't even gotten out to the public a month later when I was home. So it was a very interesting experience for sure.
Yeah, I mean that could have. That's kind of also scary to just
Yeah.
get that put up. Oh, you're going in into warfare. Like there were offers from the military for me to go into Iraq or Afghanistan and even go to special forces here, but I never had the ambition to actually do that because um, I never wanted to go into war in general. I didn't really mind doing the military. Here it's mandatory, so men.
Compulsory, yeah.
Yeah, so men have to do now also the women, but that's a whole different issue. But like,
Wait, now the women are
yeah,
also.
they were basically mandatory to show up and do the tests. So you have these. There's one day you have to show up and to do the tests for the military or
Mhm.
the civilian part of it. So you can basically also work in a kindergarten if you're a pacifist. But that was usually just the guys had to show up for the test, and then you got assigned. Like you said, you got three choices. That was the same for me. I got three choices of where do you want to be,
Oh, right,
and
your preferences, yeah.
yeah. So I got three preferences. Where do you want to be? Do you want to be Navy, Air Force, Army, whatever? And
Oh no,
so
for the one I'm talking about, I went straight to Marine Corps. The way they work it is you get to choose 3 job positions that you prefer, and then the fourth default is naturally infantry, but it's basically what the needs of the Corps are, with your score, with who's signing up at the time, and then they'll go down the list until you qualify for something at the time
yeah.
you sign up.
It's kind of the same here, but it's basically what position, because you might be an infantry, but in the Navy or in the Air Force. So you had to also check which part of the military you wanted to be in. So if you wanted to be just in the Air Force and doing intelligence or something like that, you had to basically cross all both of them. So and do like 3 options basically.
Yeah, which honestly, looking back, I wish I would have done that. I'm sure my recruiters would have loved me a lot more. Things would have gone a lot different, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, doing a whole year up north was really it's very mentally taxing to your to your mentality. So not just because it was like
It has to be.
freezing.
You're preparing to go and do the worst thing that human beings are capable of doing to each other.
Yeah.
So and then that's one of the things that I don't understand with like some of the equality movements. Like, why do you want to be eligible to do that? Nobody should want to do that in their right mind.
Yeah. And so even though I never really killed anyone. So you kind of it is taxing. Like physically, I was always in good shape. So I it wasn't really taxing that way. But mentally, even though it was freezing, it was 30 below Celsius. I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit.
Wow,
Um,
that's I think that's probably -90 in Fahrenheit or close to it.
Yeah, so when if you had water in your mouth and spit it out, it would freeze in the air. So that cold, it was that cold,
Yeah,
and
that's pretty brutal.
so yeah, so just staying awake during the exercise is like, yeah, just generally would would be taxing. So that's why I kind of related to that video you said. You talked about, and yeah, I was doing a lot of I blew shit up basically. A lot of my training because I was handling explosives, so I had to be very careful when I was priming the C4 and stuff. So
Mm,
that's what my basic thing was. There are of course details I can't indulge in because I would actually
right, right.
breach national security. Um, but you came to me through the top hats and champagne. How did that actually came to?
So, all right, yeah, I'll give all the detail behind that. Well, not all of it because that's a lot, but effectively, I got to talking to Falco through Patreon. It was one of his tiers on there, and we just became easy friends. We see eye to eye on a lot of things. Obviously, not the PC versus console argument. Uh, Not exactly, anyway. But so he offered me to do a spot, and I did the spot, and then where it gets funny is, and by the way, I never bragged about this, but out of all the guest spots he had that whole week, my video had the
Yeah.
highest number of views. So I did at least that much for the guy. um, but after that, I did the case for console video, in
Yeah.
which I tried to argue why people might want to play on consoles. Not that they're better, but why people might want to. And I sent it to him saying, go ahead and tear this apart because we're friends. I think what he does is an entertaining show. And I think that's the purpose of him doing it. And I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Uh, but what ended up happening was, and I was actually in the chat while he was doing the live edit of my video, and the vitriol was just intense. And I was like, oh God, I gotta stay away. Like, these people are getting viciously angry at me. And then after the video came out, the amount of angry comments I got on my original video was really hilarious.
Yeah, I
Uh,
saw it. I saw it when you did that. It was because what you said in the video was basically harmless and just having the viewpoint of why people play on consoles instead of PC, which was basically the whole what do you call it, a thought exercise?
well, it's some of it was my personal feelings on the matter. It's like why I default to consoles in the first place. But yeah, some of it was just like kind of like Sargon of Akkad's why people hate feminism. It's like, here's some of the points, here's some of the thought processes, here's some of the things. And some of it was really funny to me. And I actually planning, because I'm an asshole, to dive back in and pull some of my favorite comments out of that video because those comments kept on coming for like a year and a half. Like, it was the gift that
Oh.
kept giving. And some of my favorites were like, this guy's like, you can't just say it's my preferences. And it's like, yes, I can. It's my money, for starters. But I love the one this guy was like, you're wrong about everything you said. And I laughed so hard at that because it's one of the first things I said in that video in the first place. The unedited version that I put out was, objectively speaking, PC gaming is better. So I'd like to know why that guy who considers himself PC Master Race said I was wrong about everything I said when that was part of the whole setup in the first place.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I mostly play console. I actually have my PS4 on in the background here,
Nice.
and so I play PC for a few select titles. Let's say Star Wars: The Old Republic. I go back one or two times a year. I just delve back into because I like the story, just what Bioware does with that game. I also like Total War games, and those would be impossible to play on the PS4. And generally, I just prefer to play on a console because I think it's more convenient. Also like the ecosystem. I like doing the trophy stuff, like doing trophy hunting on PS4. I think that it gives you a challenge. And if I had a PC, a 360, and or a Xbox One and a PS4, it just it gets too much and too diluted for me I rather just like to have one place where I play games. So I don't really get this stuff with the PC people like, oh, I know it's a meme, but them
Well,
saying, oh,
when I first found Top Hats and Champagne, it was, I guess he hadn't gotten into the rhythm of like specific videos at the time, or I was just discovering him and I was seeing some of his backlog. I don't know exactly what, but there was a little bit more temperance to the things he was saying, and some of my favorite videos where he's like, it's a joke. You know, if you get upset by being called a peasant, or you take yourself so seriously being master race, like you're taking it way too seriously. Uh, that was a huge thing for me. But he also had somebody from the Reddit boards on, and they were talking all the points, and I'm like, I agree with everything these guys are saying. This makes perfect sense. It gets off the rails, and I guess now the PCMR board kind of has to where it's just like a cult, and it's just a lot of angry people, and they're not seeming to be interested anymore in industry and promoting good points, just shitting on people who like to play on consoles.
yeah, there used to be I used to be on GameSpot because before I got banned because of Gamergate. I was there
Wait, GameSpot?
for
Yeah.
yeah. I'm still one of the highest posters on that side, even though I'm banned. They have like the board, and they say show my post number, and I'm still number 3 at one of the boards. And there was one called System War, and that was constantly just PC people just shitting on gaming, and I just never really indulged in it because at the end of the day, you're just uh, arguing with people about games and which platform is better. And I think that's still a subjective opinion what you want to play on. Of course, PC is always going to be superior when it comes to graphics, or even with shooters, you have quicker reaction times. But like, there's also, you have to take personal preference into consideration.
Yeah, and the the divide is getting smaller and smaller. I mean, it's one of the points that I think Falco actually made that was really strong, and one of my weaker points is like the idea of convenience of console gaming, because it seems like the more time that goes on, the more at least PlayStation and Xbox try to be more like a PC, and it's just really aggravating because it makes the whole process much less convenient, which is the whole advantage of the console in the first place. And like PS4, I got the 500 gig model, figuring that'll be more than enough, but I didn't realize that the games are all downloading from the software, which is like, well, I might as well just have a computer then.
Yeah, that is true. No, I think I have 4 or 5 games installed because I don't have more space on my hardware, and that's
Yeah.
kind of irritating. So when I want to play a new game, like, oh my god, I have to wait like a few hours to actually play that game. So that's kind of really irritating. That you could just as easily play it on PC. So I agree with you on that sentiment. And as you said with Top Hats, yeah, I just sent him gifs and memes, and he started following me back, and now we are following each other. So we're talking to each other casually. I think he's one of the guys I actually follow closely on YouTube, because there's so much nonsense on YouTube in general. Like there are just if you even though I'm subscribing to guys sometimes because they made a video and I want to see what they do. It's not there. There's just a select few people I actually watch all of the content of, and Top Hats and Champagne is one of them because
Yeah.
I,
Yeah,
I
Falco's
like
one of
his.
those people that I like to see supported, just on the basis that, so far as I can tell, in my judgment, he's a good person, and what he's doing, I think, is just trying to have some fun, put some smiles out in the world in his own little way. There's some shitlord in there, which can always has that risk of going a little bit too far. But God damn it, I mean, we need that. You have to be willing to offend.
Yeah, that's well, that's the issue these days. Because when it comes to like speaking truthfully, like on my personal Facebook, I don't really talk politics. I just shit post, basically.
Well, as long as everybody's in on the joke, my whole feeling on all of that in general, and I always go to Sargon of Akkad because he was the first person I saw on YouTube that really had a way of approaching it that was superiorly intelligent. Um, but it seems like as time has gone on, he's sort of diverted from. Well, all right. When I first found him, I was binging his videos like mad, and then he did the political test video, and I did the political test, and my dot was almost in the exact same spot as him, which is why I stopped watching him, because I was like, I agree with this guy too much. I'm not learning anything. This is just like mental masturbation. I'm feeling good about somebody else telling everybody in the world that I'm right.
Yeah,
And
that's
there's not,
same here. Same
but
here.
now he's gotten to a point where it's like he's defending so hard some of the trolling online. Like he just flat out says trolling is harmless, and it isn't always. It can definitely go too far, and there's obvious signs of that. And when he had the was it Mythicist, the convention he did,
Yeah, yeah,
and him and the other guy were just going back and forth. I when the guy was like, he pointed out, hey, you told this woman online I wouldn't even rape you. Do you understand why people would be upset with that? I don't understand why he wouldn't just give the devil his due and say, yeah, I can see that. All he could say is, I don't give a shit, and do you know what she had to say about it?
yeah.
Like, you have to admit that other people's perspectives has value, and you can be a shitty person to somebody else, and if they feel like you have been a shitty person, that matters at least a little bit.
Yeah, it's. I think he's become more inflammatory as time has gone on,
And I'm not
and
without sympathy. I think that's in response to a lot of people giving him a lot of shit, honestly.
yeah. Of course, you get desensitized when you get that big, that fast. Because when I started following him, uh, I had a few conversations with him. I had one because I was invited to a podcast during
Nice.
Gamergate and on the Norwegian. There were three film critics, no, sorry, game critics, and they were basically all of them were anti Gamergate, and I came
Wow.
to him and to as and asked for advice, and just he gave me a few pointers, and he didn't have to, but he did. And once he came into my stream, that was my biggest stream ever, when and just had a little he was only there for like 10 minutes, and but it was big for me, so like someone noticing my small channel and coming on and just having a small chat. So
You got
uh
noticed by Senpai there.
yeah, noticed by senpai. and yeah, you get definitely when you have basically have that big of a target on your head, when with all these people wanting to deplatform you, you get desensitized, but you can't uh, just entrench yourself on your side. You still have to be open and uh, kind of get where the other side is coming
Well,
from. I think
I think to
that's
an extent you can't help it. You know,
yeah,
I mean, you got to figure at Sargon's size now. He is facing all of the most incredible nastiness that the left is capable of, and completely unaware of themselves being capable of. So it's they will do the exact same shit that they will accuse him of, and worse, and feel totally justified in doing it. And he's getting that all day, every day.
Yeah.
The worst of the
That
worst.
I
So you
see.
have to insulate yourself somehow.
It's kind of a human thing. There's someone in the chat observing an libertarian. He's a guy from Mainz. He says that in quotation, that which can be destroyed by truth should be. Yeah, that's a good point actually. But in this day and age, there are several truths, especially when you're trying to argument, especially politics, when you're not debating hard facts like let's say biology or something like that can be narrowed down to specific facts. Uh, like the SJWs or the alt right, they think what they're saying is the truth, and there might be even some facts backing them up, but that's their truth.
Right.
And
And that's the thing, and that's why I've kind of latched onto this idea of giving the devil their due. Everything somebody says has some element of truth, and there is always a reason behind what somebody believes. Like you can't convince all of these far left people of what they're so obsessed with without some evidence, even if it's just confirmation bias, like something happened in their lives to convince them that these things are true that they're being taught in university, for instance. So you have to address that. You can't ignore it. And what I've come to sort of think of as truth in my mind, in terms of like human perspective and things like that, of course there's an objective truth, but being imperfect beings will never actually possess it. The best we can do is to have a collection of ideas and hypotheses about the world and get closer to truth, but we can never actually assume absolute truth. And so we always have to assume some level of ignorance and have room to let other people express their truth and interact with it.
yeah, that's why like the objective morality argument is stupid, to be honest. Even you can even to a certain degree say that ethics is to some degree subjective. Like there are some ethical truths that would be universal, but there are different people have some different ethical views on things. That's what
I've thought about that. And Jordan Peterson, obviously, of course, believes in objective truths and moralities. I think that what you can obtain is when you figure out what's important to you, whatever that is, there is some kind of objective truth there, and you can get closer to it. But that you can't, like, morality being totally subjective is just not realistic. Whether you're going to say evolution is like the best good that humanity has or whatever it is, there is some best good in some category, whether it be for humanity, for Earth, or whatever. And then there's some objective truth about the best way to serve that highest good.
yeah. I mean, there are way more shades of gray than there are black and
Sure,
white,
absolutely.
because like you always have to choose the color gray that is closest to white than black. That's usually what people do every day when it comes to the decisions, doing the best they can. And
Right,
what
but there's
I
always a trade of consequences, though, too.
yeah, that's true as well. And something like there's a lot of things I agree with Jordan Peterson, but like the biggest thing when it comes to his discussion, it was something he said during what's it, Matt Dillahunty. He had a discussion with him, and it was a clip, and he
Oh, okay, I
said,
haven't seen that. Okay.
no, it was just a short clip, but something he said, because he's alluded to it from what I've seen before, but this was when he explicitly said this in the clearest way he could, was everything we do is religious, and I just fundamentally disagree with that. So he said even an atheist, everything you do is religious, and I don't know.
I think if I think about that and I try to steelman his argument there. Because as far as that stuff goes, I actually tend to disagree with him a little bit, especially his version of what truth is. Like he got in that argument with Sam Harris, and I got frustrated listening to it. But assuming if what he's saying is true, I think what he's trying to say is we can't consciously know everything at all times, and so religion is that subconscious awareness of existence that fills in the gaps. It's the faith that you know something that you're not consciously aware of that makes sense of what you can't explain. I would
Yeah,
assume.
but it's just either he's formulating those arguments very bad, or or what is actually his viewpoint on it is very bad. It's kind of hard to know because sometimes even in this example because he basically said everything we do is kind of out of a deity, even an atheist, and I don't know what he really means by that, because I fundamentally disagree with that. But you also have a lot of things what he said is very truthful. From you have like the hierarchy and the lobster thing, which we got grilled, has become a meme, and
What is it?
the lobster meme, the Kathy Newman.
Oh, the lobster. Yeah,
The
I always the meme I always get hit with is, so what you're saying is.
Yeah,
Right?
well, it's basically also the lobster thing, because she really couldn't let that one go for some reason with the lobster thing.
It's amazing how no matter how much you simplify something, some people just won't get it.
Yeah, well, but like John Peterson is also probably very similar to me when it comes to the political spectrum. That's why when I like to see what people say when I don't agree with them. But I also, when there's things I might even agree with, but I don't even know it. So that's why I don't watch. As you said, I don't watch Sargon of Akkad that much either. Even though I'm subscribed to him, because it would be just listening to what I like my own opinion, just from a different voice. And he's
A lot
probably
of
read
times,
it a
yeah.
little bit more. Yeah, he's probably read a little bit more than me. He likes his John Locke, so uh, and so that's why I seek like different opinions. I know sometimes on my channel I like to go after people that I think are fundamentally wrong. My a recent video I did, where it was regards to John Campia. Do you know that name?
No, no.
Well, he's basically he's the guy who created AMC Talk and Collider Movie Talk. He's like the biggest movie critic on YouTube, and I basically call him out for his shtick. And sometimes when I see people so fundamentally wrong, I go hard after them. But I'm usually kind of mellow, usually when it comes to stuff on YouTube. But I don't know. What do you feel like? If there's something you really disagree with, do you go hard after it? Do you...
If there's something I really disagree with, I've actually gotten to a point now where I try to avoid those things and those people, because I wouldn't even know where to start. Like from my perspective to their perspective, that there's so much distortion. I can't even. I think at least, and maybe this is just me being a quitter. I don't know, but I don't think there's any way for me to even begin to penetrate that.
Yeah.
I like to go for people that, from my perspective, have better arguments and more well thought out arguments, because on one hand, it seems like they are more open to thinking about things on a deep level, but also I think it's a lot easier to work with people who have nuanced thought, in that you can get them to at least consider one extra thing, and that can start the process at least.
Yeah, the reason why I go after people like that is because of the power they have, the power dynamic, and them being unethical.
That,
Not
yeah.
not to change their minds. That's when I go really hard, because I know I'm a small fish. I don't even have thousands of subscribers. John Campia is probably never gonna see that video, which I did. But when I because what he did, what I showed in that video, I thought was fundamentally wrong and unmoral and even unethical on several levels, and that's when I really go hard after them. And there's the observing libertarian says in the chat, subjective and moral relativism, there are not different truths, there are only different subjective biases, which is, yeah, truth is kind of a relative word we used. Truth is what which is that which can be verified and proven to be true, absent of and independent of bias and or ideology. All else is opinion, speculation, and intentional manipulation. Everything you do is religious. Replace the word religious with the word ideological, and the statement makes sense. Consider the euphemistic rather than the literal. I think what we meant with truth is kind of the subjective. What should we call it?
Well, I agree with everything that was a comment you said on the chat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
so
common.
completely accurate. What I was saying is, truth can exist, but no person can claim to hold it. No person can claim monopoly over truth because we are by nature infallible, and in an infinite universe, there's an infinite amount of knowledge to have, and that necessarily dictates that there's an infinite amount of knowledge that we don't have. So we are infinitely ignorant of existence. And as close as we can come, science is always changing. What we understand is always changing. 50 years from now, I guarantee you that what we think we know now and what medical science has as a standard now is going to be totally different. I mean,
It's
we're
gonna be
doing well.
obsolete.
Yeah, absolutely. But, there are a lot of things we thought we had figured out 200 years ago that now we consider barbaric. And that will be true for as long as humankind exists. So the whole idea is that maybe truth does exist, but no person has it. No person can claim to have it. And if anybody does and is 100% self-assured in their truth, I instantly know they are further from the truth than somebody who wouldn't think that way.
It's something I like Socrates. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but
Mm-hmm.
basically, the more you get knowledge you get, the more wisdom and the more the more you know that you don't know.
Yep.
So if you are a physicist and you basically know how the universe is put together, the more you realize how little you actually know of the known universe. Is
Yeah.
basically what even he knew this like 2000 years ago, and I think that's such a fundamental um, quote that I think everyone should have in the back of the mind when talking about anything, even
That's actually one of my favorite quotes. It's true knowledge exists in realizing that you know nothing.
yeah. And
And I actually had a great experience with this. I suggest anybody try this. Lawrence Krauss put a book out, Fear of Physics, which is a great boot camp in several fields of physics. And my experience reading that was to get extremely frustrated because there's a lot of depth in it, which is really great, but it's also hard to kind of wrap your brain around. And then by the time you get to the end of it, you're like, okay, I know 100 times more than I did before I started, but now I'm aware of 1,000,000 times more that I don't know, and I hate it.
yeah, it's like an exponential equation basically.
It is.
uh And here he says in the chat, it's addressed to you. Examine the opposition using the Aristotelian analytics and the Socratic method, item per item. You examine their arguments point by point. On infinite ignorance, absolutely true, which is precisely why truth should be defined as objectively as possible, including re-examination and re-evaluation. This is why I detest live debates. I highlighted the concept with the two rabbits experiment, examining the concept as being argument and debate in a thought experiment.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I agree. Live debates are interesting. I think one because of how political discourse goes in the modern day, but I think it's more of an exercise in how to think than in what to think. And like you said, looking at what other people say, I don't actually agree with the like Sargon's approach is to pick apart each individual thought and statement as its own standalone. And consciousness doesn't work that way. People don't tend to argue that way. And when you do that, you lose the forest for the trees. And I find it very disingenuous to latch onto one sentence, for instance, and pick apart how this person got it wrong. Do that for sure. Show where that's wrong, but that's not their thesis. That's not what that's not the totality of what they're saying. You're not understanding their argument, and therefore not really arguing with them. You're just attacking them and their semantics. Really, I mean, people are imperfect. They will form imperfect sentences.
Yeah, because I didn't do a debate on politics. It was kind of politics related, but I debated recently the two new Star Wars movies, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. Yeah, we probably have the same opinion. I'm not gonna assume, but I hated those two, and especially The Last Jedi. And so I experienced during that debate being the guy I was debating. I was trying to be as civil as possible. That's what I usually do on live streams. But he was going on rants and being condescending and claiming his argument being objective truth when it's basically an interpretation of a film. You can't claim that an interpretation of a movie. Yeah. And I was saying that throughout the debate, and I was getting sick of it. And
see, that's one of the tricks of the debate. And actually, one of my consistently popular videos was a couple that I did on debating methods. And that one in particular, and unfortunately, watching the Monk debate, I feel like nobody really managed to do this. But if you're really going to debate somebody, you have to at least try to talk about whatever it is they're talking about. If you're just fighting for your point, you're really just talking past each other a lot. Do you know the David Rubin clip with the girl screaming at him from the stands?
I have it on my from the stands recently. No. They're basically screaming, and we're handed the mic and basically we're yelling at him.
And she basically took the stage. There's one moment where she's like mockingly saying to him, well, this is why we're here. Aren't we having a civil discourse? Right there. I wish he would have just stopped her for a second and just asked, do you believe you are being civil towards me? Because she absolutely wasn't. And she would have been lying to say she was.
Yeah.
But that's where we need to kind of be a little bit more open and dialoguing in debates, where if it gets off the rails, go off the rails for a little bit.
Yeah, and kind of one second.
Well, I guess it's just me. I wish I could see the chat. I'm sorry, guys. I don't have it here for some reason. I'm just looking at the Google Hangout.
No, it was just in the background. No, during the debate, it was because he was trying also to change the conditions of the debate, where we put on the movies while we were debating in the middle of the debate, which is a really bad thing to do, and a very what should I say? It's very disingenuous to change the terms of the debate in the middle of it, and also, so at the end, I just tried to be just calm down and just say, okay, let's try to find some common ground, because I was just getting frustrated and angry at the guy, and we weren't getting nowhere because he was being a condescending fuck, if I was going to describe him.
That's perfect. Trying to find common ground is a good one. Sometimes if a debate gets too impassioned, you have to try to move tangentially. So if he is really, really hardcore going to defend, for instance, The Last Jedi, which I think nobody should do in their right mind, try making a move to a movie that made similar mistakes. Say, okay, well, how did you feel about this movie? And you know, start to pull apart the things that movie got wrong. The Last Jedi did the same exact thing. For me, it's been easy because for the longest time, people gave George Lucas shit because in the original cut of the very first Star Wars movie, they said there were so many things that didn't move the plot forward, that didn't make sense, that, you know, were scenes that were unnecessary, things like that. And they're like, well, George Lucas was a bad director because his original cut of Star Wars was just shit. And I'm like, okay, so following that same standard, if we're talking about The Last Jedi, you could cut 45 minutes out of that film and change absolutely nothing about the plot.
Yeah.
Everything with Tico and Finn. You take it out, movie does not change at all.
Yeah, true. It had zero impact on the movie, and that's kind of I think that's kind of the truth we were talking about with regarding to truth is I would probably better word would be interpretation of maybe a reality or using your morality,
It's just,
and
it's perspective, especially with a
yeah.
movie.
Yeah, and having this in general is just seeing the discourse between people, and because people in general are just different. I mean, the culture or how I grew up, my life in general is completely different to what yours is because you're half a world away. So
There's that too, yeah. No, you cut out there, bud.
sorry, it's just background stuff. So yeah, so just generally people's experiences, lived experiences, if we're gonna use the SJW term, is totally different. That's a thing they can actually use as an argument. But life in general, I mean, we're all living on this small sphere floating in space,
Yeah. Well,
and
I'll tell you what, I'll give you another one of my all-time favorite phrases, like quotes you can use that just describe existence. Finish it if you can. You see the world not as it is, but... Do you know it? You see the world not as it is, but as you are, is the quote. Basically saying that whatever you think you're taking in and seeing as objectively, you're really just taking in and seeing it through your own lens based on your experiences, your personality, and whatever you can relate to what you're actually experiencing in that moment. Did we get disconnected? Hello? I don't know if I can call this an echo chamber, but I'm definitely the only one I can hear. I'll wait for you, but I'm gonna see if I can pull up chat here. Maybe I can go on your channel. Hi there.
yeah, no, sorry, I
It's all
can't,
right.
I pulled my mic out.
Oh, really? Got excited.
Yeah. He observing libertarian said the reason why he likes both of us is that we're open and honest and routinely attempting to be rational, objective. Yeah. Um, I mean, just generally, I think discourse in this day and age, people have been become so shallow and unable to discuss things because, like I said, on Facebook you can't really have a good conversation. If you have some slight honest debate with people, they're just gonna friend you because they don't like your opinion, and it's kind of sad to see people you've grown up with and no, just they don't want to have anything to do with you because of something you said.
Well, yeah, and that's something I talked about before. One of my videos is sort of the sorry state of discourse in that because we have social media now, it's like even if you have that one in a million opinion, you know,
Yeah.
and you're really far off base, you can still find the 10,000 people that agree with you and become convinced by that population that everybody must think this way because of how many similar voices there are to yours. So
Yeah.
social media, and by connecting everybody with similar opinions, has become a beauty and a curse and a dangerous weapon. And by the companies in reinforcing that, by trying to get the people who agree together more and more, it's making things a lot harder, and it's creating ideological war, really.
Yeah, because there was one post I did, which was slightly political. It was I post about female soccer players, football here in Europe, and the difference in pay between them. And I just pointed out, well,
Mm,
women had way less viewers, and because I'm a big football fan, aka soccer,
mm,
and so I saw this article by big thing and just shared it, and I had this small comment that they were these facts. And one of my colleagues started to, she was self-described feminist, but I thought she, when I worked with her, I mean, she was completely reasonable and nice to talk to, but suddenly she
of course.
became very feral. And I'm just okay. I give her like links of what I was basing this off, and I was basically retiring myself from the conversation. And she had some discussion with my brother who wasn't helping by inflaming, I mean, inflammatory comments. But she basically just blocked me and unfriended me because I made this post. So after that, I just said, okay, I just don't want to do political stuff on at least Facebook, because if people can't handle this, it's just, yeah. And so now all I do is just basically post jokes and shit posting in general.
See, that's where you have to kind of make a conscious decision. Is if you're going to use social media to be totally congruent with yourself, including in politics, you are going to be using social media to surround yourself with only the people who agree with you. That's just the way it functions now, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's good to have your tribe. Uh, but if you're going to surround yourself with the people that, for instance, you know, like her in real life, you have to have those conversations, I think, exclusively in person, because very seldom, at least in my experience, will people ever act as insane in person as they will on the internet.
Yeah, I think it's also because it's so impersonal, and people have just, it's one click, and you basically posted a comment. So
Yep.
the relationship is further off, even though you know the person. It's just a screen you're posting something to, so you don't have you don't see the reaction of the person you're posting this to, and the context.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
that's
actually
why.
I had a friendship go that way. It was somebody I grew up with from elementary school, who started getting more and more into racial politics, even to the point where she was posting things. She said, "I only want opinions from POCs because nobody else can understand the plight." And I just messaged her one time. It's like, I feel like I'm losing you. And her response literally was, "Well, then you never had me." And I was like, that's insane. I've known you since we were kids. And now you're going to act like I don't know you? For what?
Yeah, yeah. Um, so that yeah, I mean, nowadays you have basically a choice. Basically, well, I think it was is the Japanese who say you have three faces.
Mm,
You show, you have one to the public, one to the people, your friends, and the one you have in private, all to yourself. And uh,
true.
nowadays with social media, it's really hard to have something that is close to what you are to friends with your public face. And
Yeah, I think we're still trying to figure out exactly how social media is going to roll into human nature. I don't think it's there yet, honestly.
yeah, but because technology is basically evolving faster than we can adapt to it, and we don't know what we have in front of us. So we're just all of us are basically just rolling with it, and I mean, we don't know even know what the internet is gonna be in 10 years. Even it can Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and Google could all be gone for all we know, and something
Awesome.
different is so. Uh, Internet is and technology is just moving so fast nowadays that and also how we talk to each other just online. It's a fairly new invention. So
Yes.
um,
Yes.
and like I talked to this how to what my usual stream is. It's basically just a podcast. But we talked about the Total Biscuit death.
Mm.
Didn't delve into to this deeply, but what I uh, what I contribute to social media is all the grave dancing on this man's death, and this is amplified by social media, where people
Right.
are glad a person who they disagree with what he's done, but they don't know the guy. They have no idea what his life was, and they're basically just celebrating his death because he expressed opinions that they didn't like. And I think this is amplified because of social media. They would never do this in
Absolutely.
person.
Absolutely. And it's
And
actually something that's sort of been, I guess, in a way, tormenting me about Western culture. I wonder what has happened to valuing things like decency, respect, etiquette, just basic human, just decency. I don't know a better word for it. It's
yeah, that's what word I used yesterday. You like, can't people just be decent to each other? Like, there's a difference showing decency and respect. Respect is earned. You earn respect,
sophistication
but
is what I'm looking for. Where's the
yeah,
value in intelligence and sophistication?
yeah,
Having
and
some grace.
yeah, exactly. That's also a word I like to use. But people just like uh, to use their animal instincts, like the or lizard brain, so to speak, where you just want to anger people, and because you get shits and giggles out of it. But uh,
Well, you get a dopamine shot for all the likes on a vitriolic post. And
yeah,
have you ever seen the guy who does the screaming workout videos in his car?
yeah, Robert
Robert
Frank
Frank.
or
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. He made the said it perfectly. He said there's three things that sell. He called it selling, but it's what gets attention. It's controversy, comedy, and he called it TNA, but it's just sex.
yeah.
But absolutely, and controversy, it is the cheapest thing now.
Yeah, and I think the I would say it's a chasm between people. I think in the end, most people want the same thing, but because people basically hate each other because of social media, like Richard Spencer hates Christy Winters and the opposite, and they can't just come together and try to solve problems, and that would actually progress things more instead of just digging ditches like in World War I and just looking at the other oppositions and not moving an inch towards each other. You're just basically shooting at each other, insults at each other, and not having any discourse.
This is actually something I've been wondering myself, and I don't have an answer. But like you say, how everybody hates each other. It seems like, at least in the West, leadership is seen as sort of the alpha male. Which, by the way, I want to dissolve any illusions anybody has about what an alpha male actually is. They usually think it's like alpha wolf, but it's not. That's not how wolves act. What we call an alpha male is really just natural caveman tendencies, for the record. So if you think that's the highest good you can aspire to, maybe rethink that. But um, we definitely value that behavior in the West as instilling confidence, because when somebody is alpha, at the very least, you know exactly what they're intending. So it's it seems to me, at least, this is the best guess I'm coming up with. that has caused a situation where in order to lead or be perceived as a leader, you have to be that self-assured, and anyone outside of the in-group or anyone outside of your sphere of philosophy is the other and must be considered the enemy and must be dominated.
Yeah, the observing libertarian says social media is kind of like alcohol. A drunk man's words are a sober man's thoughts. Social media removes one from ordinary social mores and causes the veneer of civility to fall. Yeah, which is basically kind of what we said
Possible.
in a yeah.
I think there's a
Um,
lot more to it. I think social media, in terms of how people are engaging with it, is extremely complicated, and I think it's going to be hard to tease out exactly what's happening. But uh, interesting thought I had, if maybe you might not think it's interesting, but I thought about Instagram and
mm,
how people are, selfies everywhere and all that stuff, and how it seems really self-interested and like a new phenomenon. But then I thought about it, and to some extent, it's kind of not. If you go to like any grandma's house, they got photo albums of their kids, and the biggest thing they want to do is show you all those photos. So it's
mm,
really just the medium has changed,
yeah.
and it has changed how those things can be displayed and the rate at which they get displayed. So how your approach to it has necessarily also adapted, but it's still kind of the same proclivity in a certain way.
Well, they also used to do paintings of themselves and show them off.
Right,
So
right.
so
But
it's
I'm
not
just saying,
a
like, for a while, I've really been bothered by Instagram because I was like, how narcissistic can you get? But really just recently, I realized, like, no, people used to keep family photo albums, and that was kind of the go-to thing when you introduced somebody into your home. So it's not that new, it's just faster.
yeah. You of course have those people who do it for attention alone, but it's also a great
Sure.
way to just invite people into your lives, because even your best friends, you don't see them every day, at least not when you're an adult. Abilities, you have jobs, don't always want to hang with them, and you want to play games, you just want to be alone sometimes as well. So when you get an Instagram and things like that, people can get like, oh, he or she is doing that, that's cool. And so they know kind of what you're doing right
Yeah.
now. That's kind of the reason why Facebook was well, at least the reason why I started using Facebook is so I could keep in touch with people.
Yeah, and I
And
think they're moving back towards that too.
yeah, and like well, with Facebook, all these big companies always letting us down with the privacy, it's kind of hard to really trust them that much. That's why also I'm less political on that platform, because I don't really trust them, and also because of I don't want to alienate friends.
Yeah, yeah, it's gotten really weird. And I guess there is the privacy concern. And thinking about the quote you mentioned about the Japanese with the three faces you have, that's one of the things that's sort of gotten under my skin lately, is like jobs now try to see all three of your faces and make believe like, because all of that information is available now, it's different, and you can't be that private person anymore because it reflects on the company in a way that it didn't used to, which
Yeah.
I kind of wonder how that's going to correct, because that can't continue. We have to be allowed to be human. Uh, people have to be allowed
Yeah.
to act dumb.
Yeah, that's why I don't add any like my bosses to my Facebook, because
Yeah, no.
they have no they don't have any right to access my personal life at all, even though I just shit post there. I mean, but they could like get a different opinion of me if all I do is shit post. So I don't want them to have access to it.
Well, like, but that's one of the things too. Is for instance, me doing YouTube, right? Right now, I'm working on going to a coding boot camp and getting a job in coding. As an app developer, whatever I managed to land as a job. What happens if they look me up on YouTube and decide that my views are too controversial and it interferes with my ability to do my job, even though I've been doing it maybe, for instance, for a year, 2 years, and doing great at it? You know, situations like that, I find kind of reprehensible, honestly.
Yeah, that's why I don't have a web camera, so I can't really show my face. But I
Smart.
don't want to, even if I had one, I don't know if I would want to show my face. Know people like my opinion. That's why I don't have my channel and just talk Norwegian. I use English as my primary language to communicate. So so it's even if they did see my stuff, it wouldn't be like local stuff and about, yeah, like that close relationship to where I am right now. So that's also one of the reason I consciously decided on talking in English as well. Not only, of course, you reach a larger other audience, but it's also distancing yourself from what you do every day. So that's
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. I may experiment with the rethink that channel and not actually show my face. I made the mistake of assuming the only thing different about my channel would in fact be me, so I better show my face, otherwise I have no selling point.
yeah, yeah. But just when you put out ideas out there, you never know if people are gonna try to track you up down and use that information against you. So that's
Yeah,
why.
yeah, no, that's of course a risk. Uh,
Yeah, I think we pretty much had a good. I have to do some help outside, but I think we've had a pretty productive discussion, and would like to do this again sometime if you have time.
yeah,
So
I'm totally up for it. I think it was nice. I'm glad that somebody enjoyed the discussion. I would certainly love to get into depth with you on one or two topics at some point in the future. I think that that can make for some much more what would you call it, spicy conversation, I guess.
yeah, I mean I linked your Twitter and your YouTube channel in the description. So if people liked what you had to say, they can check you out. So yeah, anything you want to share before we close it down?
Um, I guess I would just ask forgiveness because I guess if people do click on those links and they go check out those YouTube channels, I mean, we're talking lulls of several months before I make any videos. And while I am going to try to get on top of that, as I said, right now, I'm also trying to get into coding school. So come September, when that happens, it's going to be a solid 12 weeks of what the school says is a 60 to 100 hour obligation. So the likelihood of me having time to do any of this stuff is very, very slim. But after that,
Yeah, I mean, if they want to check your channel out, they are free to do that. So yeah, hopefully people have gained something from this conversation, because I like to stretch my mind and opinions and get them challenged. So yeah, that's basically it. Thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye.